Of all the stories I've researched for this channel, this one involves the most prolonged suffering endured by any soldier. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Nick from Operation Brightstone, where we clean military headstones and tell the incredible and sometimes tragic stories of our fallen heroes. We're here at Holy Sepulcher Cemetery in Glenside, Pennsylvania, where I am honored to clean the headstone of Private Charles Getzfread. It has been brutally hot and humid over the past 2 months, which really slowed down our efforts, but today Mother Nature gave us some relief. We plan to get a lot done today, but first we would like to honor a true hero with a tragic fate. Private Getzfread was a football star who joined the Army right out of high school. Due to his character and physical fitness, he was assigned to one of the greatest Army units of all time, the distinguished 2nd Rangers Battalion. He served valiantly until he was severely wounded in what some historians consider the deadliest and most brutal battle in World War II. He then suffered for 7 months, paralyzed in a hospital bed, separated from his family. He developed bed sores and gas gangrene, which required a leg amputation. He finally succumbed to heart disease at the young age of 19. He gave the ultimate sacrifice to our country and certainly deserves a clean and respectable monument. Please join me as I clean his headstone and tell his story. And again, thank you for joining us.
I always say that the story doesn't bring me to the gravestone brings me to the story. And this is a perfect example of that. I was cleaning a headstone in the next row over from Private Getzfread when I noticed how dirty his headstone was. I checked out the date of his death. It told me that he died during World War II at the age of 19, and that prompted me to research his story. And what I found out was shocking. John Charles Getzfread was born on April 3, 1926, in the Kensington section of Philadelphia. His parents, Matthias Getzfread and Veronica Evans, married in 1920. 6 years later, John was born. He was their firstborn and only son. His father, Matthias, attended Villanova College, where he played on the school's football team. John took after his father and also played football. He was a star in the Pop Warner League, playing for his grade school at the Ascension of Our Lord Parish in Kensington, where he led the team to the city championship at Shibe Park, the same field as the Philadelphia Eagles and Phillies. John continued to be a standout player in high school, where he grew to a height of 6 foot 2 inches. He left school in the 11th grade to begin working at the Supply Milk Company. At this time, jobs were abundant. World War II was in full progress, and all the men going overseas to fight left many open jobs that women and teenagers like John filled. Private Getzfread enlisted into the Army on June 6, 1944, at the age of 19. Because of his tall stature and excellent physical condition, he was selected to be an Army Ranger. The Rangers are an elite light infantry unit specially trained for difficult and dangerous missions. They were, and still are, the best of the best. Private Getzfread finished his stateside Ranger training on November 22, 1944, and landed in Europe the following day to begin his foreign service. He was assigned to Company D, also known as Dog Company, of the 2nd Rangers Battalion, and he was in for quite a battle. The 2nd Rangers Battalion was already legendary. These men were among the fiercest fighting units in U.S. military history. Their defining moment was during the Normandy invasion, when they were assigned to take Pointe du Hoc. This was a high beach cliff situated between Omaha Beach and Utah Beach. A fortified bunker full of German soldiers was waiting for them at the top. Their assignment was to scale the cliff with rope ladders and take these fortifications. It was said to be an impossible suicide mission. Nevertheless, they pulled it off, but with many casualties. After Normandy, the 225-man company was down to 90 fighting men. And even 6 months later, when they were on their way to fight in Germany, they were still in dire need of replacements. Along with other replacement troops, Private Getzfread linked up with Company D in the Hürtgen Forest on December 5th, 1944. In early December, the 2nd Battalion was making its way through Germany as part of the Battle of the Hürtgen Forest. This was the longest and one of the most brutal battles in U.S. Army history. The Hürtgen Forest is a 25 square mile forest in the western part of Germany, not far from the Belgian border. And at the time, it was the furthest into Germany that the Allies advanced. At the center of the forest was Hill 400. This large hill was adjacent to the small village of Bergstein, which sat at the foot of the hill. It was called Hill 400 because of its height of 400 meters, which is over 1,300 feet. This made it an excellent observation point for the surrounding forest and perfect for 360-degree artillery strikes throughout the forest. Hill 400 held significant strategic importance, and the Rangers were assigned to take it from the Germans on December 7th, just 2 days after Private Getzfread joined the unit. What he was about to experience on his first day of fighting is well documented in 2 books I read, Dog Company, The Boys of Pointe du Hoc, and The Last Hill. These books give a very detailed description of this historic attack, and I'll do my best to summarize it. Private Getzfread is not mentioned by name in these books, but I was able to apply other information I found, which placed him in the historical account. To reach Hill 400, the Rangers had to go through the village of Bergstein, where the 47th Armored Infantry Division were already fighting the Germans. As they approached the hill, they found a sunken carriage road directly facing it. This road was wide enough to provide good coverage for both companies as they lined up for the attack. A 200-yard icy field was between this sunken road and the foot of the hill. The plan was for companies D and F to move forward and take the hill, while the remaining companies remained in Bergstein to protect the rear. But before they moved to take the hill, the American forces in the rear were to fire artillery onto the hill to force the Germans back into their bunkers, allowing the Rangers to reach the hill with minimal resistance. The timing of the attack had to be precisely coordinated with the artillery unit behind them. So at the coordinated time, the artillery barrage would stop, and Private Getzfread and his fellow Rangers were to walk shoulder to shoulder at a moderate, controlled pace across the field, with each man emptying an entire clip from their machine guns as they approached the hill. This is called a marching fire assault and was intended to keep the Germans under cover so the Rangers could reach the base of the hill without return fire into the open field. However, this strategy did not go as planned, and far from it. The dramatic events that occurred right before the attack are legendary and determined the fate of Private Getzfread. As companies D and F lined up in the sunken road, they checked their watches so that at the precise time when the American artillery stopped, they would emerge from the road and begin their marching fire assault. About 20 minutes before the jump-off time, the new lieutenant of Company F grew nervous that the Germans were at the flank and ordered a private to go out as a scout. 2 experienced sergeants disagreed with the order because they knew it would be a certain death sentence to send a single man into the open field. They told the private not to comply with the order, but for fear of disobeying an order, the private complied, and after taking 3 steps away from the sunken road, he was shot in the stomach. The men pulled him back to safety and were infuriated that this had happened. Their anger turned into a rage-fueled adrenaline rush, and a sergeant from Fox Company yelled, "Let's go get the bastards." Dog Company sergeant shouted, "Go." But this was 10 minutes before the coordinated jump-off time, and the mortars were still flying overhead from both directions. One by one, the men from both companies emerged from the sunken road and charged across the field, screaming a rebel yell and shooting from the hip in a hail of bullets and mortars. One man remembers running across the field, firing his gun from the hip and yelling at the top of his lungs, "Hi-ho, Silver!" the call to action catchphrase of the Lone Ranger, ironically being used by an Army Ranger. With shells and bullets landing all over the field, injured Rangers stood right back up and continued to run and shoot. Halfway across the field, the charge became disarrayed because some men ran faster than others, and no one was in charge. The smoke was so thick, the men could barely see each other. The faster, more athletic men, including Private Getzfread, reached the hill first. right into the line of American artillery from the rear, while also receiving fire from the Germans in the front. Both companies were losing men and only half reached the top of the hill. Private Getzfread was not one of them. He was struck by shrapnel in the lower back. As the fierce fighting took place around him, he lay on the ground, paralyzed by his injury. The Rangers took the top of the hill at the same exact minute Pearl Harbor was attacked, 3 years to the day, but it wasn't until several hours later that the entire hill was taken, and Private Getzfread was tended to and moved to a makeshift medical aid station in a Catholic church at the base of the hill. The church still stands today, and impact strikes can be seen on its side. From there, he was stabilized and moved to a hospital in England. 2 months later, on February 17, 1945, he was moved to Percy Jones Hospital in Battle Creek, Michigan. Percy Jones Hospital was the Army's largest medical installation, specializing in complex cases requiring advanced training and equipment. It was the Army's center for spinal cord injuries, neurosurgery, and amputations. Hospital documentary lists his diagnosis as an L1 spinal cord injury due to shrapnel. This injury unfortunately paralyzed both of his legs, a condition called paraplegia. Private Getzfread's prognosis was poor, but he was determined to walk again. On August 23, 1945, he was given an Achievement Award and a watch for his efforts in rehab. The newspaper article covering the story reported that John strengthens his upper torso every day to the point of pain and exhaustion. The picture in this article is the only one I can find of him. But despite his great effort, the devastating effects of his injury were so severe that he remained confined to a white iron bed in Ward 8 of the hospital, lying among other men with amputations and serious injuries, with nothing to do. This immobility caused severe secondary problems, which had devastating consequences. Without walking and moving, there was significant deconditioning. His weight dropped from 180 pounds to a mere 90 pounds. This is a BMI of 11.5. To put that into perspective, a BMI below 15 is considered the most extreme category of anorexia. A BMI below 13.5 can lead to organ failure, while a BMI below 12 can be life-threatening. So, it is no surprise that his heart began to fail. Because he couldn't freely move his legs, pressure sores developed under his buttocks and heels. His sores became deep ulcerations that developed into a severe infection of his leg called gas gangrene, an awful, life-threatening situation where the tissue starts to liquefy as the infection spreads up the leg and eventually gets into the bloodstream. His body was too weak to fight the infection. On August 25, 1945, an amputation of the left leg was necessary to save his life. This was just 2 days after the newspaper article reported that he was making good progress. Over the next month, the physical toll on his heart became overwhelming, and on September 20th, 1945, Private Getzfread passed away from heart failure, 2 weeks after the end of the war. Since he died as a direct result of injuries sustained on the battlefield, his casualty designation should be DOW, which means died of wounds sustained on the battlefield. Instead, his death was designated as DNB, which means died non-battle. At first, I thought this was a mistake because his injury was sustained in battle. So why does it say died non-battle? In doing more research, I found out that this was not a mistake, and I uncovered a non-documented fact about the death of Private Getzfread. He was injured by friendly fire. The term died non-battle refers to injuries or deaths that happened due to factors other than enemy action, such as accidents, disease, or friendly fire. If a death or injury is not at the hands of the enemy, it is classified as non-battle. It is not considered part of the battle, even if it occurred during the engagement. In World War II, tens of thousands of soldiers died from friendly fire, and their families never knew. Friendly fire can happen due to miscommunication, chaotic battle conditions, mistaken identity, technology malfunctions, and conditions impairing visibility. These factors can make it difficult to distinguish friend from foe in the heat of battle. The attack on Hill 400 had many of the risk factors for friendly fire: miscommunication, poor visibility, chaos, and uncoordinated American artillery fire from the rear. It is estimated that 10% of all deaths in World War II were due to friendly fire. I could not find official documentation stating that Private Getzfread succumbed to friendly fire, but the facts strongly suggest it. Unfortunately, many cases of friendly fire go undocumented. Private John Getzfread should never be forgotten. I can't imagine a better example of suffering and sacrifice for our country. He deserves a clean and respectable monument, and his story should be heard. I'll take care of his monument, and I ask you to share his story. It's the least we can do. May he rest in peace.